30 years ago, the NFL experienced a strike. Stars sat while no names, has-beens, never would-bes were plucked from obscurity and suited up for 3 weeks. Director John Dorsey explores the upcoming 30 for 30 Year of the Scab. For many of those replacement players, the experience became not a badge of honor, but a wound that's still healing. Profiled is Skip Lane.
When the opportunity came to go play for the Redskins, I mean, it was the easiest decision of my life. That's the boss right there, so you got to be quiet when you come down this corner. I had to go to the boss, and he was a little apprehensive. You know, that was a $100,000, $200,000 decision to walk away from him. But the life I was walking away from, I knew I could get back into. And if I had the physical body right now, I'd pay $100,000 to go play in free safety for the Redskins. Wouldn't you?
We're now joined by the star of the new 30 for 30, Skip Lane, here on SportsCenter.
Star is an overstatement.
Yeah. What goes through your mind when you see that and having been interviewed and you know it's coming up?
Great memories. You know, I hot and cold. You know, sometimes I wish I kept my mouth shut and just played, and maybe I would have stayed on the team. But I never really, it was surreal to me. It never really grasped me as like, I'm really on the Redskins. I thought it was kind of just a little fantasy trip, and so I enjoyed every moment of it.
What do you mean by you wish you could have kept your mouth shut?
Because I was kind of the media darling, and I struck out against the union and the players, and which I was rightfully so. They didn't settle the thing for years, practically, but there's still ongoing issues that they haven't settled. But I was the outspoken one. I was the soundbite, if you would, with Christine Brennan and Katie Couric and other players just did their job and played and got a better shot and stayed on. The whole rest of the secondary stayed on the team. I was the only one that was released.
And you think that's because of your outspokenness?
Pretty sure, because I was the MVP of a game and, didn't do anything wrong. And Coach Pettibone and Gibbs put their arm around me in the end and said, you can really play. It's too bad that you'd get killed if you stayed around here,
Because you had played before.
I had played. I had been with the Jets, the Chiefs, and I'd played all over the world, from Italy to Canada. I'm a professional football player, but so were all these guys. They thought we fell off a turnip truck. No, we were professional football players who didn't quite get our break when the right things. You got to be the right place at the right time. There's a lot of things that have to fall in line for you to be an NFL football player.
So with that being said, what goes through your mind when you hear just the title of the 30 for 30, Year of the Scab?
It's you have to say it so loud.
Well, that's what I'm asking, exactly.
It's bothersome. And the first time I spoke to John Dorsey, who shot it, and I would only do it if he said I was a veteran of the league, but I wanted to be more of a veteran in the league. I wanted to get done. So when he promised to do that for me, but then when they just, because the scab sells, obviously, but it doesn't heal. It's a weird thing, and it's still bothersome for when people call me that, because that's all they'll remember me for. I played a lot of football. And this is going to put the spotlight back on that. I'll be back to be Skip the Scab again, which is painful, But I have to own it. It is what it is, and I just wanted to play pro football. Who wouldn't? Right?
You and I were talking off camera earlier in the day, and it's, you weren't in the best shape when all this went down. You had played professional football, but you, like you said in that piece, you gave up a desk job.
I was a commercial real estate broker. I was working, playing a little touch football league on the weekends in Westport, and
just going to the gym,
Going to the gym, and just kind of falling apart. And I'm surprised I didn't pull both hamstrings, and it was fine when I got there. I went there to get a check. I left from work like this, and I said, I wouldn't go to the Jets because I played there. Didn't want to cross those guys. And they said, Washington, you'll get a check to sign. You'll get what you left the league. Let's go. It's like a trick question. I just went right there, jumped on a shuttle and flew there, signed a contract, got my whatever it was, $15,000 or something. I thought that was the end of it. And they would settle this, but they didn't. And then a week later, we were practicing, and they said we're going to play a game. And then I'm playing against all pro guys. I was not ready for that. My mouth wrote a check that I couldn't cash, I thought,
So you're sitting there in the secondary, worried that you might pull both hamstrings on the first play. What's going through your mind right there when you're like, oh my gosh, this is really happening and I could give up a touchdown very easily?
Yeah, I remember being ultra focused. I wish I was that focused before when I was in the league. I was never so nervous because the spotlight's really on you, and don't let Roy Green, first play of the game, they come out to a slot. And J.T. Smith, who was my best friend in Kansas City Chiefs, and there's all pro Roy Green there, and I'm a 4'5" guy who's probably running 4'6" right now, and I'm down about 10 pounds. Like, this isn't a good position to be in. I think I better give them some space. And they're talking a bunch of smack, and I was pretty uptight.
And a strange twist in all this, the Redskins won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's my famous line now, no ring, right?
Right, and you guys didn't get a ring.
And from what I understand, it's an owner's preference. So we played under the bargain agreement. We got paid our playoff money. We got paid our Super Bowl money. So they honored that. But then the ring is not part of the bargain agreement. That's whatever. It's a personal choice of the owners. But he gives them to the guy who parked your car, the girl who's typing up the contracts. They get it. I put my body on the line, my brain on the line, which is a whole other conversation, and my reputation as a player on the line. And they just sweep us under the rug and no ring. It was wrong.
How often do you think about that?
I don't, but I'd like to have one.
Sure.
I wouldn't wear it anyway, because then I'd have to talk about my Scab year, which it always seems to go back to that, and then I have to wind myself out of it. But I'd have it on my shelf somewhere and say, yeah, that's a proud moment. And they wouldn't have won that game. They wouldn't have won their conference without us beating those 3 conference rivals of theirs. They weren't playing that well early in the season, and it all just fell into line for them. And that for them to sweep us under the rug, I thought was really inappropriate.
Well, your story is remarkable. We're glad and appreciative that you became a mouthpiece and a soundbite. But you said maybe if you had to do one thing over again, you wouldn't do that?
Possibly. Coach Pettibone, is it too late? Now I run 5.2.
It's faster than I run. Skip Lane here on SportsCenter, head of the 30 for 30. And it is a little over 20 minutes away, top of the hour, right here on ESPN, the next 30 for 30, the year of the Scab.